you want to ask a question.
With the help of Xero's small business accounting software, I've got the right information at my fingertips.
So business is a breeze. And I've got bigger plans. Search Xero with an X.
Sadly, windshield chips can turn into windshield cracks. But at least you can go to safelight.com and schedule a fix in minutes.
Sweet.
SafeLight can come to you for free. Don't wait. Go to safelight.com and schedule now.
like it? I did. Yes. Aww.
Bring back all of those happy days. Put your troubles down. I am. It's time to celebrate. Let love shine. And we will find a way to come together and make things better. We need a holiday. We took a holiday. Some time to celebrate. Just one day out of life. Just one day. It would be so nice.
The ones who carry us. The queen who unites different friend groups. The bold leader when the night is young. Kate Spade.
Customize and save with Liberty Mutual. Very funny, Limu.
Words like violence break the silence. Come crashing into my little world. Painful to me, it's right through me. Don't you understand? Oh, my little girl. All I ever wanted, all I ever needed is here in my arms. Words are very unnecessary. They can only do harm.
I guess they don't.
Gazebo works 24/7 to attract and trap flying insects.
Experience the essence of comfort at New Lot Business Lounge at Chicago O'Hare Airport. Comfortable space for work and relaxation. High-speed Wi-Fi and charging stations. A variety of Polish and local dishes. We welcome all airline passengers. Buy your pass now.
Papa, I know you're going to be upset, 'cause I was always your little girl. You should know by now I'm not a baby. You always taught me right from wrong. I need your help, Daddy, please be strong. I may be young at heart, but I know what I'm saying. The one you warned me all about, the one you said I could do without. We're in an awful mess, and I don't mean maybe. Please, Papa, don't preach. I'm in trouble deep. Papa, don't preach. I've been losing sleep, but I made up my mind. I'm keeping my baby.
Okay, you guys can. Trying to get out of the screen. Oh, am I on the screen too? No, me. Am I black?
You're
on the
fine.
screen?
No.
Okay. Oh.
Well, good morning, everyone. We'd like to get the presentation started. We have a lot of different locations going on at the same time. We are recording this, so you'll have that information available to you. Just make sure you sign in and have your email so we can send the information to you, the links. My name is Mark Smolensky. I work with Elderwerks. I am a senior advisor. And what that means basically is I am a resource for a lot of people that call into our organization. We have between 9,000 and 10,000 hits a month in our website. We have been around for over 15 years, providing services at no cost to individuals. And so we work mostly with the senior population. We help them with placement and whether they need to move to an assisted living or independent living situation, whatever the case may be, home care, hospice, attorneys, legal, realtors. We help a lot of people in regards to many resources that are out there. Again, our organization has been around a long time, and we put on a lot of these CE events. And this is just one of them that we like to make sure that everybody has as much information as you possibly can. We want to thank the sponsors for coming and appreciate their attendance. So what I'd like to do is, share with everybody that, life is long and it's difficult and it's a journey. And there's no one right answer for one person or an individual. So the key thing is that we need to have all these resources. So when we talk about resources, we talk about many different things and a quality life. And a quality life will be for everybody. It's different for everyone. And so we have experts that we have at Elderwerks that do certain things that have years of experience that we have that can provide the background and the resources for, in this case, a lot of education that we're talking about today. I did want to make sure a couple of notes here that anybody that's here, please turn off your phones so they don't ring. Also there is snacks and things on the right-hand side. We do have an Elderwerks table. There's directories and information there for our services that we offer no cost to any of your clients. And then there's directories there with all the information we have. And again, like I said, there's coffee and things there for everybody. And so what I'd like to do is introduce Chris. Chris is one of our long-term
6 years.
6 years. And it's one of those things where Chris has been in the industry as an RN, is that correct? For over 30 years. She brings a lot of education to our events that we do. And so she critiques them, develops them, and works through all the correct information. So when you're actually getting information like an event like today, she's experienced and we all have the actual facts behind a lot of this information that we do provide. She is also a certified dementia educator. She has created a program, Dementia Reality, which is right there. It's a program that has UV glasses, is that right?
The Oculus, yeah.
The Oculus that I experienced not too long ago to kind of put you in the touch of what it's like to have dementia or working with the people with dementia. So Chris has been around a long time regarding the experiences and the knowledge that we have, and we'll continue to do that through Elderwerks for a long time. I do like to introduce Chris at this point. She's going to have a nice presentation, and then we'll have other speakers that'll come on also. All right, well, thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Before we get started, I guess my big question is, how many of you in this room are caregivers or have been caregivers? Okay, good. So at least you acknowledge that you are a caregiver. When we talk about it a little bit and we talk about what it means, I'm sure more hands will go up because oftentimes we don't look at caregiving as what we're doing every day. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. So the title of this program is Caregiving the First Year and Beyond. And our objectives are recognizing the need for caregiving. We really need to look at assessing some of those key indicators that signal the need for caregiving, transitioning into caregiving role, and understanding the responsibilities and the adjustments involved in becoming a caregiver, because it really requires a lot of effort and team effort on your part. The emotional challenges and self-care, identifying emotional challenges faced by caregivers and strategies for self-care, because self-care is going to be really important for the caregiver. Navigating the healthcare system, which you know becomes more and more disastrous every day. There's been a lot of changes in healthcare in general, and so it becomes harder for us to navigate the healthcare system. Balancing our personal and our professional commitments, and what are some of the strategies for balancing those between caregiving responsibilities and your personal or your professional commitments. And then adapting to those evolving needs, because if you're a caregiver, you know caregiving isn't static. You're continually changing, and you have to change how you do things to make sure that you're meeting the needs of the person that you caregive for. But in the end, looking and discovering the positive aspects of caregiving And we all need to take a look at that and understand that there are positive aspects to caregiving. On a personal note, I have been a caregiver to 2 family members in my life. One was my father-in-law, and that was about 25 years ago. And my mother has passed, it'll be 7 years this September. So we caregave for both of them. And I say we because it really took a village. And so, that first person that you caregive for, is experimental because you don't know really what you're doing. But you need to know that there's a lot of resources out there for you. So, as former First Lady Rosalind Carter said, there are only 4 kinds of people in this world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those that will need caregivers. I think she explained that perfectly, and she, for many years, was a caregiver to her husband, but then her husband ended up being a caregiver to her too. So, caregiving is multifaceted, and we'll talk about that today as well. So, what's the definition of a caregiver? If I went around the room and I asked everybody what the definition of caregiver is, I'd probably get 25 different answers from 25 different people, because caregiving for everybody might mean a little bit different. But it's defined as any relative, any partner, friend, or neighbor who has a significant personal relationship with and provides a broad range of assistance for an older person or an adult or a child, anybody with a chronic illness or condition. And these individuals may be primary or secondary caregivers. They may live with them, they may live separately from them, and from that person receiving care. So caregiving, like I said, is going to look different for everybody in the room. For the first time that were caregiving for my father-in-law, he lived with us for about 18 months. And the second time when I had my mother, she lived in her home, and we supported her with whatever she needed until we could no longer support her well enough, because she had Alzheimer's disease, and then we had to look for placement in a community that would meet her needs. The care recipient is someone with a chronic illness or a disabling condition, or an older adult who needs ongoing assistance with everyday tasks and to function well on a daily basis. And we always want them to function the best that they can. The person needing assistance may also require primary and acute medical care or rehabilitation from some of the other healthcare, such as occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy. There's a lot of people out there that will assist. So, are you a caregiver? If we look at these boxes up here, it gives us some statistics. And being an unpaid caregiver is one of the most beautiful things any of us will ever do. But it's because unpaid caregivers are so invested in caring for their older loved ones that their stress is high. 43% of adults and caregivers, only 19% really identify as caregivers. So again, if I were to poll the people in the room, after we talk about what actually a caregiver is, more hands would probably go up. Why is it important that most people don't self-identify as a caregiver when caregiving? Well, a lot of times we're caregiving for family members. And that really implies that we're doing this because it's our responsibility, it's our family member, this is what we're supposed to do. And so there's a lot of things that will lead us to caregiving. But when they start to need a higher level of care, we really need to reach out more to those sources. You know, a lot of times you ask someone why they're a caregiver, well, I'm a good daughter, so this is what I'm supposed to do. And we know that there's a lot of family dynamics out there. We know that not every family is emotionally healthy. And so caregiving really takes a lot of stress and drama placement in those families. We had a man one time in our community. I was the manager on call that day, and one of the social workers came to me and said, you know, Mr. So-and-so doesn't have any clean socks or socks that have, I'm sorry, not clean socks, socks that had holes in them, t-shirts that had holes in them, and they really needed new underwear. And so the social worker said, I'm gonna call the family. And it took us 3 or 4 times to call that family to get an answer. And finally, after we said, because they were the POAs and they were the family of this man, that if they don't respond, we're gonna have to call the Illinois State. We're gonna have to report this. And they came quickly after that. What we didn't know about this man is he had 5 children. What we didn't know about this man is that he had sexually assaulted every one of his children. So, you know, sometimes we judge and we look at the picture when it's not complete. And it wasn't until they didn't disclose this until we said, you know, we really need to keep an eye on your father a little bit more as far as his clothing and blah, blah, blah. And they finally disclosed that they really don't have a good relationship with this man because what happened. So when you see someone like that, you know that it's very difficult to be 100% behind that caregiving because he has a history that I don't have. And so, you know, immediately we start to judge, but we really need to pull away from that and listen to the whole story. According to the National Alliance for Caregiving and AARP, 70% of caregivers who work outside the home suffer work-related difficulties due to their dual roles. You've heard of the sandwich generation. When I was caring, my husband and I were both caring for my father-in-law. We were part of the sandwich generation. We had my father-in-law, we brought him into our home. And we set up a room for him in our family room, which took away our family room. And we were happy to do that, but we had 3 teenagers living in that house as well. And we had 3 teenagers that were involved they were all in high school and they were involved in high school activities. So taking care of grandpa and making sure he got good care and, you know, making sure that we were still parenting was very difficult. When he was in a particular community being evaluated, they said, we can't keep him here because he's a choking risk. You're gonna have to take him out of here. And you have to take him out of here by tomorrow. And I was like, this is before I got into older adult care. And I was like a deer in headlights. What do I do? And I live near Arlington Heights, and the Lutheran home is there, and they have an adult daycare. And I called them, and it was, an angel was watching over me that day because he started the next day. And so that started our caregiving journey and our routine. I was working at the hospital at the time, and I was working in a surgical prep area, and I started work at 4:30 in the morning. So, you know, it was a team. My husband and I had to, you know, tag team my father-in-law to make sure that he got dressed and cared for, and then I picked up the end of the day. So you find a system as you go along, but it takes time. You don't jump in to caregiving that first year as the expert. So let's move on. Some of the statistics on caregiving: 1 out of 4 women, that's 25%, are caregivers, while 1 in 5 men, 18%. 22% of adults report providing care for assistance to a friend or family member for the past 30 days. Among adults aged 45 and 64, 24 are caregivers compared to the 18% of adults age 65 and older. So really, when you look at these statistics, really what we want to pull out of this is, first of all, women are caregivers. There's a higher rate of caregiving among women and than there are among men. there's more, it used to be, not anymore, but it used to be that the demands for working were more impressive for men than they were for women. We know that's a balance now. You see families where the woman makes more than the man, so the man stays home and parents and takes care of the household. But it used to be where we would see, the women outbalance the men. And as we age, as you have an aging parent among you, you probably are going to increase your need for caregiving. Now, keep in mind, there's different types of caregiving. There's caregiving where you're caregiving 24 hours, where that person is in the house with you and you have care for them for 24 hours. But caregiving also means helping them balance their books if they're living independently. Having, going in and doing their housekeeping for them, maybe going grocery shopping once a week, or taking them to the doctor for their doctor's appointment. That's all considered caregiving. So keep that in mind. Also, we as caregivers spend about $7,100 out of our own pockets annually for caregiving. Think about the things that you go to the store and you buy. Think about, the underpads that Medicare maybe does not cover, or maybe that person's not covered under Medicare. Think about the food that you need to feed this person. For my mom, we were responsible. My sister paid her cell bill. I paid when she lived at home. I paid her alert button, that she wore around her neck, because that's a monthly fee. And obviously, when you're aging out of your finances, you need that financial support. So the evolution of caregiving has really evolved significantly, with more emphasis on home-based care rather than institutional options. Be careful what you promise people, because you never know how it's going to end up. We tried really hard to keep my mom out of a community. I've worked in and outside of communities as an educator. I was never in the trenches as a CNA, but I was, walking the floors and making sure people were doing things right. And those people work very, very, very hard. But because Medicare doesn't reimburse like it should, no one gets paid a lot. And so the turnover in those communities is quite quick. So my older sister said, I'm never putting mom and dad in a nursing home. And she kept telling me that over the years, and this is before mom was sick. And at some point she said, I think it's time. And I never discussed it with her. I never said, I told you so. I never said, we were ready for this about 3 years ago. She had to come to her own terms, because she felt like she was breaching that promise that she made. And that's very difficult. So, as a caregiver, don't make promises 100% you cannot keep. Approximately 44 million adults actively engage in family caregiving, but we know that social changes impact caregiving. I don't think there's very many families today, there's a handful, that one partner can stay home full-time and parent, even without a side gig. Most people are working, and they have to. And so caregiving looks very different than it did back in the 50s, when, mom was at home baking pies and taking care of the 6 children. She could then gather in when necessary and caregive, but society has changed. Health transformations make it, there's changes in that make caregiving look different. And the most important thing and the most prominent thing is people are living longer. And so you never thought you would be caregiving for, someone that is 100 years old. And at 100 years old, people can still thrive, but they will need support on certain things. We have a friend of our family, mom's 104 years old. She still lives independently in her own condo. But my friend goes and brings her meals. They live very close, and she brings her meals every day. She won't let Marcia take out her garbage. She won't let Marcia sweep her floor. She does that all herself. Very unique 104. But we're not all that lucky that we see a real decline in people who live that long. And even their endurance changes where they physically, although cognitively they may be intact, physically their body is aging and they can't do what they used to do. The last thing is family caregiver careers. Some people, and there is, and I'm not real sure about this, but I know state of Illinois is one of those caregiving states that if you are a caregiver full-time, if you have to quit your full-time job and caregive for someone, you will get payment for that. It's like a job. And I don't know how that works, I apologize, but if anybody gets to a point where they say, I can't work anymore because mom is full-time and I don't, or dad, and I don't wanna have to put them in a nursing home or an assisted living, then how do I care for them at home? Now, obviously, it's not gonna be what you're making as the, as a realtor or a CEO of a company or as a registered nurse. It's gonna be minimal, but at least they're starting to reimburse those family caregivers who are doing it full-time. So I think one of the things that we need to look at is assessing when a person needs caregiving. How do we know when someone is in need of caregiving when we look for changes in their daily activities and routines? And, I use my mom a lot as an example. I always feel that she was my last teacher because I learned, even though I was already in the industry, the one thing I will tell you, until you're a caregiver yourself, you think you have all the answers, you don't. And so as I navigated this journey with my mom, I learned a lot of things. And one of the things that we learned for her was that we started seeing some subtle changes. And we thought maybe those subtle changes were just a part of aging. But when we walked into her house one day, and we were helping her with things by this time, we were tidying up the house, her laundry was in the basement, we didn't want her walking stairs anymore, so we would come every Saturday, and my sisters and I would, help mom. One would visit with her, because when you go to, here's another thing as a caregiver, when you go to do things for an older adult, because they're lonely, they want company. So one of us would be the visitor, and the other two would kind of tag team. And we would get things done, go grocery shopping, clean the house, do what we needed to do. But what we found was that her bills were not being paid. They were getting stacked. We noticed that she had a stack of bills on her table. And we said, Mom, what about paying your bills? And she said, well, we went through them, and it was one of them was a Commonwealth Edison bill. And we said, Mom, they're shutting off your electricity if you don't pay your bill. And we understood at that point that there was some sliding in cognition that was going on. And I tell this story because it's funny, but it's not funny. She said, just put on the envelope that I'm sick and mail it back. They'll understand. That is how she was problem solving this. And that was a red light for me. And we got in the car, we paid the bill, we did what we needed to do, and we said, we need more services. Mom needs help. And so everyone's gonna experience a different thing. You can try writing that on any of your bills and see if it works. Maybe it will for you, who knows? But we knew it wasn't gonna work for my mom. So we set up, medication, we set up pay billing. I mean, you just keep adding more and more what we call services to that caregiving. So you're looking at that change in cognition, and again, sometimes it's very subtle. You want to look at that decline in physical health and mobility, and we saw with my mom that there was a lot of physical. She had arthritis very bad, and we saw that it was difficult for her to do certain things, such as walking the stairs safely and doing her laundry. We saw the memory loss and cognitive decline. The other thing that we noticed was she was a very social person. She was the one who was always driving the old ladies to bingo, and she stopped going. And in retrospect, when we look at that, if you look at those early stages of dementia, in early stage dementia, they are aware of changes. They don't quite know what those changes are. They don't know what to do with those changes. Sometimes they can confibulate a conversation to make it sound like it fits, but it really makes no sense, and they start to self-isolate. We'll talk about isolation and what that does to the brain. You'll find too that there's excessive weight loss or changes in appetite. And we know that as you get older, your taste buds change, and you want more sweet stuff than you want, and more salty stuff. And that can change your weight. If they're not shopping well, if they can't see well when they're shopping, you know they're not buying the right food. So you do see some changes in their weight up or down. So in that first year of caregiving, you're really finding your way. The first thing is you don't want to go it alone. You need to reach out to siblings if you have siblings, other family members if you have that, or neighbors or friends, or a social network of people who are caregivers who you can bounce ideas off of. Build your network. We have a couple of support groups through our through Elderwerks. They meet on in the evening. They're Zoom, and they're for people who are caregivers of all sorts. And we did Zoom because a lot of caregivers said, I can't get out of the house. You know, I have no one to watch dad while I go. And so we started this Zoom caregiver group, and it is quite effective. And in fact, some of the people in the Zoom caregiver group have been able to build friendships, and they now rely on each other and for suggestions and maybe for help. Think about your budget. What are you looking at? Make a list of everything that you need to caregive for that person. Do you need to redo a room? Do you have to get a new bed? Do you need medical supplies like underpads or pull-ups? Do you need a special mouthwash? There's things, again, that Medicare, Medicaid do not cover. And those things are gonna be out of pocket. Haircuts, going to the beauty shop, getting the mom's nails done, things that will make them feel good. Those all have to be added into a budget, so you know what's coming out of pocket at the end of the year if the person you're caregiving for doesn't have that money. Talk early and often to the other people in your family. We had conversations in our family at that time. There's 3 girls and a boy. My brother lives in Wyoming. He's kind of detached from the family. We knew that there would be no caregiving from him. So we just set it up amongst us. So you have to really talk about what you're feeling about that. And that's do that gut check. How is this feeling for you? It's gonna be stressful, but that it will become maybe a little less stressful as that end of that first year and you get into your routine. What you want to do, and this is very important, is get organized with medical and legal documents. If you have not talked to an elder attorney yet to talk about medical and legal documents, it's worth a couple $100 to get those papers written up so you have all of that when you need it. And I needed that. I was the POA for my mom, and it got to the point she had a cardiac issue, and it was not going to resolve, and they were going to have to do open heart surgery on her at 95, and she did not want any vents. We talked to her at the very beginning of her dementia, when she was still able to make her own decisions. And she was pretty clear about what she wanted and what she didn't want. So even though it was hard and stressful for me, and I conferred with my sisters, I knew that we had the proper paperwork and we knew what my mom's wishes were. So again, get those papers in order. It's really, really important. It's gonna take time for you to build your own skills. How you dress her today, help her with dressing today, is gonna be a little different than when you do it in 6 months or 8 months from now. If you're looking at something like dementia and her cognition, their cognition declines, you know, how you're doing something today is gonna really look a little different in a year. And then realize that help is available and take it. It's very important that you take that help. There are a lot of emotional challenges, and according to AARP in the article Look at US Caregivers, Mental Health in a Post-Pandemic Nation, the stress of family caregiving has only gotten complex, and the nation's 48 million adult family caregivers who are not paid for their labor must take daily steps to first attend to their own physical, emotional, and mental well-being. Now, I came from a family where we did and we gave back to the community. We knew what we were supposed to do. And when I had my first child, I'll never forget the mother-baby nurse having the bathing demonstration. We used to do that. We would all gather with all the mothers and their babies, and we'd go through how to bathe the baby. And the nurse said to everybody in the room, I'm gonna tell you something. She said, if you don't take care of yourself first, you cannot take care of this baby. And my first reaction to that was, well, that's not right. I'm the mother, I have to take care of that baby first. But think about what they tell you on the airplane and the oxygen. Put your oxygen on first and then put it on the person next to you. And it's true, even as an adult caring for another adult, you cannot take care of another person unless you take care of yourself mentally and physically. Half the caregivers, 50%, said they had an increased level of emotional stress, while more than 1/3 said it impacted their physical feelings of stress. Female caregivers experience more emotional challenges than older caregivers with a higher level of anxiety. As an older adult, you probably will have more anxiety about caregiving because you yourself are starting to feel the aches and pains of older adults, and your social circle might become a little bit smaller. So again, we really need to look at those self-strategies, and that might include taking breaks during the day, seeking professional help, talking to someone, getting into a support group. Those are all really important things. Because there's gonna be a lot of stress and we need to learn how to manage it. 40 to 70% of family caregivers show a clinical significant symptom of depression. That's approximately a quarter or half of these caregivers meet the diagnostic criteria for major depressive disorder. That's kind of scary. It's hard to take care of someone when you're depressed yourself. So you really need to look at practicing relaxation techniques like deep breathing or meditation, which promotes calmness. You can do meditation anywhere. You can do it before you get up in the morning. You can do it if you're a caregiver, when that person is down for a nap or resting. It doesn't have to be, it can be just sitting in a chair, but it's really just mindful thinking, breathing, letting that air out. If you find that you're having difficulty kind of even doing that, that therapy, think about seeking professional therapy or counseling or getting into a support group. And then also engaging in self activities, that's important. And for everybody, that's gonna be different. For me, that means I want 10 to 15 minutes for me to read my book. For someone else, that might mean I need to take a bath with a glass of wine and my book. And so everybody's going to find something that they know that they do now that helps them calm down a little bit and chill. And even if it's 10, 15 minutes a day, you have to find that time. I think the hardest thing that we encounter with caregiving is asking for help. And I think it's very important to ask for help when you're caregiving, because you cannot do it alone. It will emotionally and physically deprive you. I think there's a lot of guilt and with dealing with guilt and self-compassion. I think it's important for you to realize that you can only do the best that you know. And when you know better, you do better. That's what Maya Angelou said. And we know that to be true. And we talked to other caregivers and they said, I feel bad that I did it this way last year, but I learned this new way to do it. And it's so much better for Dad. And I feel better because I can empathize with him. I have that empathy because I have that reserve now. If you don't have that emotional reserve, it's very hard for you to be empathetic. So we need to recognize what normal caregiving skill is. It's important to recognize that and know that that is just mostly feeling like I'm not doing a good job. I got to get away from here. This is the night I usually go bowling, and now I can't go bowling anymore. And I'm mad about it. It's okay to be mad about it. You have a right to be angry about it. But you also have to practice that self-compassion part of yourself. That you are a caregiver, and though you can't do those normal activities in the time frames that you did them before, you may have to change those a little bit. Most people are flexible. They'll come over and they'll spot you for a bit. Many people want to help. When someone calls you, when you're a caregiver, and they call you and they say, what can I do to help? Most people, there's some people that don't mean that, but most people want to. And what I've learned is not everybody feels comfortable caregiving, especially if it's not someone that is part of their family. But there's other things that they can do. Like the man down the street might call me and say, is there anything I can do for you, Chris? And I might say, there's 2 ceiling lights that are out in my mom's house. Can you help me get those ceiling lights back on? Or I need to sit down for a few minutes. Can you take the laundry and change it from the washer to the dryer for me so I can just sit and rest for a few minutes? They're not actually doing caregiving things, or look, I've got to take Mom to the doctor on Friday. I don't know how I'm going to fit in making dinner. Do you think you could throw something together for me? Many people will help you out that way because they want to help, but caregiving to them might be scary. So think about other things that you can do. Put a to-do list together and put it on your refrigerator. So you need to change the light bulbs in Mom's house. You need to have someone make dinner on Thursday. You've got a doctor's appointment on Friday. You need someone to come and sit on Friday while you go to the doctor's appointment. And as people call and say, do you need any help with anything? Or you reach out to them, your siblings, your family members, and say, I need your help for this hour. Most people will oblige for that. So it's really always about seeking that support. Some of the barriers that we deal with when we're caregiving is that feeling of isolation, because we do most times feel like we are alone. And that increases the longer you are a caregiver. 78% of caregivers feel they need more help or information. So that's going to increase. The other thing that we have as a barrier is family conflict. And again, you're going to see family conflict just about in every family. My brother would come in once a year from Wyoming and tell us all, my sisters and I, what we did wrong for the whole year, and then visit for 10 minutes and go back to Wyoming. You might have siblings that are like that also. You just have to let that roll off your back. They need to feel important. They need to feel like they're part of the problem, part of the resolution when we know that we're not. So we know that we're doing a good job. There's also trust issues. Someone from down the street or living behind you might come and say, I can watch mom for an hour with that doctor appointment, but is that someone that you really trust to be with mom? So there are some issues, and that's when you have to build that strong social circle and with family members. Legal, and we talked about that, what's going to happen, and I definitely would say, get your ducks in a row as much as you can, not only for yourself, so this doesn't happen to your children, but get those ducks in a row also for that person that you're caring for. So when it's time to make some of those very difficult decisions, you'll find it easier, and you'll also find it easier to deal with that lone person in your family that wants to tell you how to do everything, and you have the papers to show them that this is what those wishes were. Caregivers deal with grief and loss all the time. It's called ambiguous loss, especially with something that's chronic and life-taking, like Alzheimer's disease. As they start losing part of their cognition and then their physical, they start, you start grieving that. I was just having lunch with a friend yesterday, and her husband will have been past 8 years. And she said, I look back on my caregiving, he had cancer, and she said, sometimes I think I was harsh. And I said, no, you were not harsh. I could see what you were going through. And she said, and in the end, I almost wished that he would die. And she said, not because I didn't want to be a caregiver anymore. She said, but because I didn't want him to suffer. Or was it because, she was questioning herself, or was it because I didn't want to be a caregiver anymore? Those are difficult struggles that we go through when we're caregiving for people. And that's why it's important for some people to get that, professional help, or, talk that out with someone. Now, there's something called caregiver burnout, and caregiver burnout is a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion that may be accompanied by a change in attitude from positive and caring to negative and unconnected. Burnout can occur when caregivers don't get the help that they need, or they try to do more than they're able, either physically, emotionally, or financially. We saw a lot of caregiver burnout and stress burnout during COVID with our professional caregivers in hospitals and nursing homes and so on, because they didn't have the resources that they needed. And a lot of people walked out of healthcare professions because of the demands of the job, and people were working twice as hard. And so you get to a point in your caregiving where you're just going through the motions. There's no empathy, you're distancing yourself, and it becomes very difficult. So what causes caregiver burnout? Conflicting demands as you try to balance the needs of the care for that care recipient, or coworkers or employees or family members, and yourself. It's going to be difficult. 6 in 10 people are regularly being asked to perform medical procedures. We have a friend, I'm talking, I think I have friends that do everything, but these are stories that I think help you connect. His wife now has a PICC line, and that's a line that goes into your, the upper part of your arm, and it delivers medicine, but most importantly for her is antibiotics. And these antibiotics have to be hung at a certain time. The antibiotic has to be covered with a sleeve because it decomposes with light, and he has to do that 4 times a day. The nurse came in and showed him once in the home how to connect it, how to turn on the roller, how to disconnect it, and that was the teaching. That was see one, do one, teach one. And that's how people, we're looking at people in health who are coming into healthcare and they don't have that experience and they're being told that they have to do these things, and it can be very scary for them. So we see that we have more demands than we did a long time ago. Lack of control is another thing, that they may not have control over the disease process that they see in front of them. Lack of control over money, lack of control over what their siblings or other family members will do. They also may see a lack of privacy if you have other caregivers coming in, if you have home care coming in, that back door is open and people might be in and out. Role confusion. Am I a husband? Am I a caregiver? Am I the person who Uber drives? Am I the grocery store delivery person? What am I here? So there's so many roles that people take when they're caregiving, they start to get a little role confusion. And like I said, there's unreasonable demands for a lot of people. And we have unrealistic expectations for ourselves. And that's the one thing that we can take away is those unrealistic expectations. Now I said, put a note, write your to-do list every day. And here's a trick so you feel like you've accomplished at least one thing, because you may not be able to accomplish anything else on that list. On your to-do list, the very first thing you write is write a to-do list. And then you can cross it off and you will feel successful. And if nothing else on that list gets done, you did one thing on that list. There's going to be days where you don't look at that list. You're so busy caregiving, but you have to give yourself space and you have to give yourself self-compassion. It's very, very important to do that. The other thing that we see with healthcare, with caregivers, is that there is an increase in health related problems, high blood pressure, diabetes, heart conditions, being overweight, not exercising. And that's because we're so busy caregiving for someone else, we're not taking care of ourselves. And go back to that nurse that did that baby bath. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of the person. They've done studies, and there are some caregivers that are less healthy than the person that they're caregiving for. And that's not good, because you gotta be 100% to make sure that you're caregiving. So here's some of our warning signs of caregiver burnout. We look at anxiety and avoidance of people. You don't want to go out anymore, depression, exhaustion. Have you ever had that feeling that your whole body just hurts and you're tired and you're falling asleep all the time? That could be from burnout. So we look at some of these, and you might already be able to check off some of those if you're a caregiver. If you are checking some of those, we need to look and think about how we can improve and get rid of some of those warning signs in caregiver burnout. So again, here's our physical signs and our emotional signs. And studies show that stress and social isolation are some of the things that can cause havoc on the body, from changes to the immune system and changes in the brain to physical symptoms such as body aches and pain. They did studies after COVID, and they found that there were structural changes to the negative in brains of people who were isolated during COVID. Our brains changed. If you were completely isolated, you had no one to talk to, you were home by yourself, and this is a lot of older adults, that brain actually starts to decline. So many of the symptoms we attribute to infection are really due to a protective response of our immune system. So you might see a runny nose during a cold. That's not direct from a virus. So we know that our body starts to react to the stress in many ways. This is a little video on the effects of stress on the brain.
Welcome to this week's Brain-Based Wellness News. In today's news, we look at the impact chronic stress has on your brain health and function. Approximately 90% of all doctor visits are due to stress-related health ailments. Chronic stress increases the stress hormone cortisol. Excess cortisol contributes to a wide variety of health problems, including weight gain, osteoporosis, digestive problems, hormone imbalances, cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. Cortisol also affects brain health and mental well-being with symptoms like memory loss, brain fog, anxiety, and worry. Some proactive steps you can take to reduce the impact stress has on your brain are: eat a diet high in antioxidant-rich foods like fruit, vegetables, dark chocolate, and green tea. Get daily physical exercise. Start a daily meditation practice. Get plenty of sleep. And of course, chiropractic care has been found to help people better manage their stress. Get regular chiropractic checkups for the
Well, that talks about chiropractic care. And I show that just because it talks about the, what happens to the brain, but, and I'm not saying chiropractic care is good or bad, because I see a chiropractor. But the other thing that we saw in COVID that we see often is what we call compassion fatigue. And that is emotional and physical exhaustion experienced by caregivers due to prolonged exposure to the suffering for those that they care for. That's the other thing that we saw in hospitals during COVID, but we see that in caregivers. There will be people who are so exhausted and they can't do it anymore that they'll bring their family member to the emergency room and leave. Even though that's called desertion and they can be charged, they know no other way out but taking that person to the emergency room and leaving. They leave them in the, they find that it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. You might be irritable, that exhaustion and reduced ability to feel empathy, and that's a big trigger. If you are not feeling empathy anymore, you need to take a step aside. You see a decreased sense of purpose, emotional disconnection. And that, again, it's caused from increased stress. This is kind of the higher level of burnout. Oops. So let's talk about caregiver burnout and compassion fatigue and what we can do about it. So let me just move my papers because I have a hard time seeing that far. So we need to look at some of those self-practices. And that what that really means is, and that's going to look different for different people. Like I said, for my self-practice, it's going to be maybe going for a walk or reading a book. Your self-practice is maybe meditating or, you know, having a glass of wine or visiting with a neighbor. Everybody has their own self-practice. If you really want to be there for your loved one, you've got to do that. Establish clear boundaries. I'm not going to do this. This is something that I can't do, and I'm not going to do that. And it's okay to tell that person that's not something I'm able to do for you. You know, they may ask you to take them in the car and go someplace when you know the doctor has, said they need to be home because they're hooked up to an IV or whatever. So you have to have boundaries for people too. It helps manage those expectations, and those boundaries allow you, when necessary, to communicate openly about what your limitations are. And we all have our limitations. So set those realistic expectations for yourself. Learn to say no when necessary and delegate tasks. I have learned one other trick that has brought the great stress relief: knowing when to leave the room. If you get escalated, if you get angry, it's time to leave the room. So you need to walk out of the room and take a few deep breaths, count to 10, bring it down, and then go back into that room. Also communicate openly about your caregiving limitations, not only to the person that you're caregiving for, but also to your family members. And then utilize those support networks. And I have a slide up here that's got a couple support networks that you can look at. If you took one of our catalogs back there, you can get some information about support networks. If you call Elderwerks, you can get information about support networks. not only locally, but, you know, if mom lives in the city and she's not close to you, you can look for maybe home care in that area. That book is a support for everybody. It's got home care, it's got assisted living, it's got tips of the trade, it's got support networks. So if you don't have a catalog, grab one on the way out because that definitely will help you. Know that Elderwerks is there for you for any of this. Time management strategies are very important. And then I think one of the most important things is you need to get your regular checkups. If you're scheduled for a doctor's appointment, you don't cancel that. You make sure that you can get to the doctor. I think one of the things that really helps us deal with this is laughter. Laughter really is the best medicine. It reduces the amount of cortisol our body spills out. Remember, cortisol is that flight or fight hormone, and it always makes our stomach feel like you want to jump out of your skin. But laughter also increases endorphins, the body's own natural opiates that make you happy. It increases catecholamine levels, which are known to boost mental function, so it helps your brain. And it helps your brain by improving mental alertness, by increasing your memory and interpersonal responsiveness. We have a consumer program that any of you can log on to or look for that we do, and it's called Laughter is the Best Medicine, and it gives you a whole history of laughter, how you can make yourself laugh. And I did this for a group, support group once, and a man came up to me afterwards and he said, you know, the thing I miss the most about my wife, she had dementia, is that she doesn't laugh anymore. She can't laugh. And I said, we can all still laugh, but she's gonna laugh. She's not gonna be able to get the punchline of a joke. But I said, you laughed, because I show little video clips, and one is of I Love Lucy on the candy line, and the other one is on, oh gosh, Carol Burnett, when he's the dentist, Harvey Korman and Tim Conway. If you haven't seen it, it's hysterical. So I play those during the class, and everybody was laughing. I said, go home and put this on, put I Love Lucy, because when all else fails, physical comedy is something that you can laugh at, and you may be able to get her to laugh again. The one thing you have to do is be forgiving. Forgiveness is not something we do for other people, it's what we do for ourselves so we can move on. So you have to forgive the people that don't step up. You have to forgive the things that maybe you didn't like that happened as you were growing up. You have to forgive, and you're forgiving for yourself, because once you do forgive, then you are able to move on. And we always call this the red phone. Who's your person that you're going to contact when you need help? You need one person to really share that experience with. And so who's that person going to be for you? Identify your support network and cultivate those connections. Share that load together. And I think it will help. Again, people go, I don't want to get in there. So I'm not a support group person. You may never have been for any other thing, but I definitely will tell you, being in a support group for caregivers has been a lifesaver for many, many, many people. Navigating the healthcare system. It's very arduous. Now, I have an aunt who had a stroke 2 years ago, and I was her POA. They have no children. And I have to be honest with you, I've been a nurse for actually almost 50 years, and I was in the hospital for half of that time, but since I've been in education, I really don't know what has changed in the hospital. So when we get to the emergency room, and I know the basics, I know what to do, I know how to bandage, but it's all the technology that has changed in hospitals and the systems. And so I thought, how can I do the best for my aunt? And it was clear to me almost right from the offset that I needed to hire a care manager. And a care manager is either a social worker or a nurse who is experienced, they get certified in something called care management. And Medicare does not pay for it, this is out of pocket. But most care managers will let you pay by the hour. So I was able to get a care manager in and find out exactly what was gonna happen. She called every morning and got report from the nurses. That is one way to navigate the healthcare system. The other thing I say is never let someone go to the hospital by themselves. There's so much going on with that person, they need someone to advocate for them. Don't be afraid to ask questions. People are afraid to ask doctors questions. People are afraid to ask nurses questions. But I will tell you, the people in the hospital, myself included when I work there, work for you. You're our employer. And so we have to answer questions. Don't be afraid to ask them. And if they don't know the answer, ask them if they can get that answer. You can save a life by doing that. So make sure that you advocate. If you have someone that you know that knows of a case manager, get a recommendation. You can always call Elderwerks. Again, we have a list of people. We're gonna give you several choices that have been vetted by Elderwerks. We're not just gonna throw a name out there, but that is something that you may wanna think about. But advocacy and that care manager, excuse me, will advocate for you also. We've talked about communication a little bit and the threat of it, and I think it's really important that you not only communicate with those around you, those who are who may be helping you with this caregiving journey, communicate with the nurses and the doctors if they're in the hospital, communicate with your family members. One of the things that I find kind of difficult is sometimes the family members don't want to disclose everything, like maybe a mental health problem. And then when we try to care for them and this mental health problem, you know, pops up, we don't know if it's new, if it's always been there, what can we do, how did they treat it before? So when you're giving the history to someone, make sure if it's on yourself or if it's a family member you're caring for, make sure that you're giving your complete history because it's going to be really important. So balancing work family, it's going to take you a little bit to figure that out. Like I said, with my father-in-law, it took us about a good 6 months to get that rhythm going where my husband and I both knew our roles and were able to get kids back and forth to what they needed to be back. And so we prioritized it. You have to set that plan and again, communicate openly if things are going to change, and then set those boundaries and let other people know what your expectation is of them. And then make sure that you've got that support system. And I know we've said that all through this, but that's really one of the most important things. And then next to that, I think the other important thing is your own health. It's extremely important. These are just general resources for caregivers. Looking for financial assistance. What you really want to do is go to an attorney who does elder law because they know all the ins and outs of POAs. And again, if you don't know an elder law attorney, the ones that are vetted are in our catalog, or you can always call us and we can give you some recommendations. Join caregiver support groups and networks. A lot of them have gone online because they know the difficulty of people getting out. Go to the educational programs. We have consumer educational programs that run all the time. So don't be afraid to look at our catalog that's online and see what we have for consumers. And then engage in professional caregiving or at home if you need a home aide. Again, you can always call Elderwerks for that information. It's in our catalog. Word of mouth is always the best. You know, I had a caregiver from this agency and the agency was great, easy to work for. You know, don't just pick one out of the blue. There's a lot of community programs out there, and these are, if you want to take a picture of this, these are respite information. There are nursing homes, assisted living, home care that will come in and do respite. So let's say you got someone in the family getting married and you need to be away that day for the wedding. You can arrange for respite care. Again, that's out of pocket, but it's usually pretty minimal. And we've talked about just adapting. You've got to just kind of roll with the punches. And like I said, what worked last year isn't going to work this year because it's always, it's forever changing. This is our last video, and I apologize to our next speaker. We did get started a little bit late, so I'm almost done.
Running a law firm means wearing a lot of different hats.
Hey, Hoff, has the Campbell intake form been completed? I'm sure it's around here somewhere.
Whoops, sorry. Tried to get rid of the commercial.
Big ideas don't come easy. But when you get one, use that moment of clarity to create a new reality. To turn your pastime into your full-time. Your personal style into your signature brand. Your homemade recipe into a household name. Your daydream into your dream job.
What I'm going to tell you about gratitude, and you can pull that up on YouTube, because it really is kind of a nice, gratitude also changes the chemistry in the brain. So every day before you go to bed, or every day when you wake up, either say it or write it, what you're grateful for. Because just the action and just verbalizing your gratitude is going to change that brain chemistry for you. And that's really important. And know that there's a positive aspect to caregiving. While we're enmeshed in it, we may not know it, but when we're outside of it and reflecting on it, that's time that you're never going to get back. And so appreciate it and enjoy it as much as you can, and know that when you know better, you do better. And there are a lot of resources out there for you. So any questions on anything that we went through? Well, whoever's a caregiver in this room, how many are now caregivers who didn't raise their hand before? Just about everybody. If you have children, you're a caregiver. If you have grandparents and you run errands for them, you're a caregiver. So caregivers are underappreciated, and from Elderwerks, we want to thank everybody for being a caregiver every day that you do. So, Mark, thank you.
I can't echo enough about Chris in the presentation and her experiences, because I actually, when my father passed away, I just was the son. We have three brothers. I have three brothers, and I was just the son that lived close. And I said, "Hey, Ma, you need something? Light bulb goes out, call me, I'll fix it." 2 years later, I felt like I was taking her to doctors. I was taking her to the grocery store. I was doing all this stuff, and I felt the weight of the responsibility on my shoulders. It was really, someone told me, "You're the caregiver," and I said, "No, I'm not." I didn't even know what it meant, but I was. It just slowly creeps up, and everybody that's helped anybody has felt that. All of a sudden, you feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders, and so it does creep up, and it's because you care and you're doing the best you can. So thank you, Chris, for echoing all that.
Thanks.
I would like to introduce some of our support group here, meaning that vendors that we have. I'd like to bring up Amy Gatos, if I'm saying that right. She's with DuPage County. This is something I echo to everybody I've ever talked to in the past 22 years of working with seniors. Always reach out to your senior services. They have a lot of information. You never know where you can get something that's discounted or free or whatever. But here's Amy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Whoops.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Elderwerks. Thank you, Chris, for all that great information. So I'll be very brief. I'm from DuPage County Community Services. I'm here with my colleague Christine, and we're just here to let you know about the services in DuPage County and other information. Well, we have packets of our 211 information, or I should say everyone's 211 information. It's the phone number you can dial anytime, 24/7 for resources. So please give that a try. If you have any questions, just dial 211. We also have SHIP, the Senior Health Insurance Program information in here as well. And Chris was, talking about all the services that we are helping with. One is our community care program. It's this light blue one. It's for people who might need a little light housekeeping, personal care. Come see us and talk about that. Caregivers, when she was talking, all I could think of is, yes, we do help caregivers. We assist with respite care, short term. We assist with other things, so come see us. We also assist with grandparents or older adults raising younger adults. So that's something that's, really helpful. There are quite a few grandparents or older adults raising other relatives. So we do have we do have funds available for them. And we also have Felix the cat. Come see Felix the cat. That's our comfort pet that we are able to give to older adults who have signs of dementia. We have adult day service, which Chris was mentioning, and it's our hidden gem that I always call it. It is a hidden gem. So they're located throughout our county and yours as well. And money management program. I could go on, but I don't want to take up time. And we do also have this white brochure if you're in another county or you know people in another county. They're all listed in here, and they have the services as well.
Thank you, Amy. Appreciate it. Make sure you stop by their booth down there and get all that information. It's very useful. I would like to introduce also Edward Jones. Edward Jones is supporting Elderwerks. I had talked with Rita Magic. She's a magician when it comes to numbers. Play on words, I know it's a bad joke. But I'd like to introduce Rita. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Rita Magic, and I'm with Edward Jones. Thank you, Mark. And my office is in Glen Ellen. And I would just like to say that I work with clients that need help with retirement planning, investment management, tax strategies, protection strategies, and estate planning. This is very much, we like to take very much a holistic approach. I like to meet with my clients and really get to know them and really understand what's important to them. And we take a look at where you're at today, where you'd like to be in the future, and we devise some strategies to help you get there. I love to meet my clients where they're comfortable. So if I am working with older clients, I have found that they love to meet at coffee shops, bakeries. I'll meet them at home, or they can come to my office and we discuss what's important to them. My email address is rita.magic@edwardjones.com. And I'd love to, if you know of someone that could benefit from my services, please give them my information. I have a passion for working with people and helping them with their financial goals. I have definitely a heart for elders and heart for seniors, and I'd love to help them in their journey. with their finances as well. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, I would like to introduce also Paula Robinson. She's an insurance agent, does all types of insurances and protects you, basically. So here you go, Paula.
Good morning. My name is Paula Robinson, as stated. I represent the Robinson Insurance Group, but as of today, I'm representing Aetna. As you know, the Medicare plan has changed. Healthcare industry has changed as a whole. And what it is they're offering now, what a lot of people are not aware of as caregivers, is they have like what's called special needs plan for people who have heart attacks, have strokes, that have moved. When you move from one location to another, say from Cook County to DuPage County, the senior may lose their benefits, and they're not aware of that. They also, the young lady talked about caregiver burnout. They also have plans where they allow caregivers to go out for maybe an hour or two, you know, once every other month, so they can have some time to themselves to avoid the burnout. They also allow them to come out, and they have doctors that come in home, so you don't have to take them out. They have nurses that will come in and help you, and not just to show you things, but if the doctor writes an order saying they need a nurse every day for 5 hours a day, every day, then you will get that nurse for as long as the doctor has written the order for. There's a lot of things have changed in healthcare. If you have any questions, I'm sitting in the back. Like I said, I don't just right now represent Aetna, but I do work with other carriers like Cigna, Humana, and all of them, and we do Medicare supplements as well, and I can answer any questions that you might have according to them. And a lot of these plans do assign case managers to you to help you along with the problem. We also do seminars as well to educate our seniors, or even you, about medications that you take, about doctor's visits, Social Security scams, all kinds of things. So please, don't hesitate to stop back there to Des and talk to me, and maybe we can set something up to educate you, okay? Have a great day, and thank you.
Thank you, Paul. We have Linda Streck. She is someone I've known for many years. She works for CapTel. She has a very unique program. As we all age, sometimes we have hearing issues, and so we have to adapt to those type of things through hearing aids and other things. She has a very unique program. There you go, Linda.
Thank you. Hi everyone, how are you? We know that one of the most common chronic conditions affecting seniors right now is hearing loss. I'm sure so many of you know people that have hearing loss. It's really becoming the third chronic condition right behind heart disease and high blood pressure. So what do you do with someone, you know, with hearing loss? You can tell them, go ahead, get a hearing aid. We know a lot of people won't do that. They won't admit that they have hearing loss. They won't pay for hearing aids. But then what happens? You know, they stop communicating, they stop coming to events, and they feel isolated. So one of the big things, you know, we really learned from COVID, which was one positive thing I have to say, was even people that didn't have hearing loss understand what it's like. So how many of you, when you were trying to talk to somebody that was wearing a mask, could you understand them? Honestly, you're like, huh? What did you say? I can't hear you. You've got your mask. Well, that's what happens every day with people with hearing loss. I'm actually one of them. Hearing loss is just not for seniors. It can be at any age. So the thing that we also learned about during COVID was you couldn't go out, you couldn't see everybody. How do you keep that connection going? So we did have the isolation, and the only thing, the way to keep people connected was a phone. So your phone became a lifeline. The problem is with people with hearing loss, it might be difficult to understand on the phone, whether it might not be loud enough being the volume, or you might not understand the conversation. So at CapTel, what we do, we created a phone that is like closed caption on the TV, but it's for your phone. So not only can you hear what your caller says, so the volume is going to be louder, but you're also able to read word for word what somebody is saying. The nice thing about the phone, it's covered under the American with Disabilities Act, most people don't realize hearing loss is an invisible disability. Now the new thing that we like, I have the forms here. Anyone that you know, regardless of age or income, can actually self-certify themselves. They don't have to get a diagnosis that they have hearing loss. A lot of people won't admit to it, so you know when someone has hearing loss. They're asking you to repeat themselves. They're looking at you like you're deer in headlights, you know, because a lot of times they're afraid. They don't want to say something that's going to embarrass them. So one of the things you can say, you know, I feel like sometimes you're just not understanding what I'm saying on the phone, and I would really hate for you to miss important things that are going on. So the new thing is, again, they can self-certify. So anyone you know, you can help them get a phone. And we know a lot of people got rid of their landlines. A lot of people don't have them, but as long as you have your own internet in your home or wherever you may be, apartment, assisted living, we can provide a no-cost phone line actually through this phone. So we'll take on the cost of paying for a phone line so they are able to use the phone. Another neat feature about our phone, it saves every conversation. So again, the adult children, you know, go to the family, who did you talk to today? I don't know, some doctor's office called, I don't know. I just couldn't hear them, I'm like, okay, goodbye. You can go back to the conversation. It has a built-in answering machine. So it's also safety. Like I know for me, like I said, I have hearing loss. If my doctor called me and said, Linda, I went through your labs. I know you take this medication 3 times a day. Let's go down to 2. Well, I personally still have a problem with numbers. So if I didn't see the 2, that could be a real issue. So that's another thing. It's safety. It's getting people, again, getting that independence to make phone calls, calling customer service, but saying, you know what, I love your accent, but I really need someone that, you know, speaks English to understand. But everything is all safe. So it really gives them peace of mind. It gives the adult children peace of mind. Also, even people with mild cognitive decline, it's still good to use the phone because you're exercising their brain. Like we don't think about it, but we hear with our brain, not with our ears. So I've got the forms over there. I've been doing this almost 12 years, and every day I give the gift of communication. We are nationwide also. Yeah.
I'm Polish.
Uh-huh.
So if I got this from my mom,
Yeah.
she wouldn't understand, even if it was on the screen, because
Right.
it would be in English. Do you do other languages?
It's only
in the software?
English and Spanish. English and Spanish
There's
right
no
now. I
Polish?
know. The phones are made in Wisconsin, which I know a lot of veterans like as well. But right now it's only English and Spanish. It is auto captions, so it might have another language, but again, it's however it gets translated, just like you would, you know, from your iPhone. Right now, those are the 2 languages. Yeah. And then we come out and we install every phone if they want us to. If it's a hoarding situation, they're like, I don't want anybody coming, that's fine. We'll ship the phone. Yeah.
Is there like a monthly fee?
Nope, no monthly fee, nothing. So if you think about it, since the 80s, we've been paying into that fund. If you remember when we did have landlines, it was probably on the phone bill under like TTY, 20 cents, 10 cents. It's already been paid into that fund. And we're actually the same company that does the TTY for the deaf. And then we realized, what about everybody with hearing loss? How do we help them? So no monthly fee, nothing. It's their phone. Anything happens to it, which it can happen. It can fall. It can have a power outage and just not work anymore. We'll actually come and swap out the phone. So
Did you say the cost of the phone? Did
is
you
that what?
say how much the phone is, or is it paid by Medicare?
No, it's paid $88. So there's no cost. No cost for the phone. If we have to give you a phone line because you no longer have one, but you have your own internet, that's no cost as well.
It's paid by ADA?
American with Disabilities Act. Yep. I promise you, I know everyone's like, what? Promise you. The FCC regulates that fund, so it's for anybody that has hearing loss. And I've helped so many people. I mean, it really just makes a difference in people's lives. Yeah.
Is that just for Illinois, or do other states?
I can't hear. See, I have hearing loss. No, that's okay.
Is this just for Illinois, or do other states?
Nationwide.
Nationwide.
So we are nationwide. Yep. And it does English and Spanish. If you know somebody that speaks Spanish in the area, I do have a bilingual installer. If we don't have an installer in a state that you're looking for in an area, what we'll do is we'll ship the phone and work with a family member. and send them equipment that they might need to help with the phone, but yeah.
Thank you, Linda.
Yes.
Landline or we need
So if you
internet?
don't have a landline, or you don't have like VoIP from like a bundle from Comcast or Uverse, we'll provide one as long as they have their own internet.
And you said it's self-certified?
You can self-certify. Yep. And my stuff's over there if you want to talk to me more. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. We appreciate the support of all the people that have showed up today and our vendors. So Linda does have all the information and she has some machines with her. It's always nice to be able to see those. I did want to do one other thing is that before you leave today, we do have a speaker evaluation. We would like everybody to fill that out. It is something also that there is a raffle based on that. So there is some benefit, not only to us getting the knowledge of what you have provided, so we can make better presentations and things of that nature, but also there's some benefits to that. So just want to FYI on that. And then before we break for lunch, I did want to bring in Jay Stupin, if I said his name right. He has 45 years of experience in sales, marketing, and communications. He currently works for Estate and Probate Legal Group. He is the communication relationship manager for the organization. He's a great guy. He's got a sense of humor, but he deals with something that's extremely important because I was always working on the financial side a lot of times with seniors, and the problem is that if you have to go to probate, it creates another problem, more paper, more headaches, and more costs. Try to plan ahead financially. So that's what Jay is going to talk a little bit about. They are local, so if you need anything locally, he can help you out. So I'd like to at this time introduce Jay. Jay, come on up.
Thank you, Mark. You're welcome. I told him to tell you guys I'm a really great guy. I'm really, really happy to be here. First of all, thank you to Elderwerks. They are the gold standard in the senior arena in the DuPage County area. You cannot find better people that can direct you to places that you need to help your seniors with. I have a group that I put together over the last 6 or 7 months where it's a group of all people that are involved in the senior arena. Some are facilities, some are people that help people find things. And Elderwerks is, when that's brought up, it's always someplace that people have a lot of respect for. So here's what I want to do. I work for a law firm in Oak Brook. We do estate planning, guardianship for seniors, which is very much on the rise. This last year, our cases have tripled. When we're talking about baby boomers, these are some very serious issues. And when we get into this, one of the problems is people don't have their documents in place that they need to do. So we're gonna talk about probate, and then we're gonna talk about how horrible it is and how much you really need to avoid it. And then we're gonna talk about the documents that you need, whether it's for yourself, for your seniors, in order to avoid that. Do I understand we have some realtors here as well? Okay. Have any of you dealt with selling a house for the family because of probate?
Yeah.
No?
Oh, yeah, no, it's a pain in the.
It really is, because just so you understand, if you're not in that field, everything that goes on, you have to go back to the probate judge. He's got to okay that. Then we come back with the offer, and then he's got to approve that. And what did we spend on it? So it's not just a pain for the families. Generally speaking, even if it's a very simple probate case, currently it's taking 18 months to 2 years for a very simple case. Okay, so we'll get much more into that. Okay, but before we get into that, I want to start out with a little fun. So I'm going to ask Mark to come up for me here. So do we have any Motown fans here? Anybody? Okay, all right. So I like to start out a little bit with so what we're going to do is we're going to play some songs, okay? And all I want you to do is raise your hand and tell me who the artist is, okay? And so we have some older people here, so I'm gonna count on you guys to know these, all right? And what we're gonna play for, whoever gets the most, we have this great book, it's called I'm Dead, Now What? So what this book is it's a great place to keep all of your information, so your children can access it when the time comes. Keeps all of your wills and all those kinds of things, so it's a great thing to have. So we're gonna do this just to start out with a little fun, okay? So tell me who this is. She got it, okay. Mark, you keep it score, right? All right. Marvin Gaye, okay, very good. All right. All right, let's see who can jump on this one. Everybody's gonna know who this one is. Aretha. All right. You guys are good. This is a little more recent. Shout it out. Don't wait for me to call on you. Just shout it out, all right? Who got it? Did you get?
I didn't know who said that.
I think over here she got it first. So we know who the Prince fan is in the group. All right. There we go. All right. My personal favorite. All right. This one's quick. All right, got him. All right, you guys are good. Who's a little younger in the crowd? Let's see if you get this one. Tupac. All right, very good. All right, we have scores going.
Pretty even except for the back of the room.
All right. Who said that? Right there. Okay, very good. Michael Jackson. Let's see if you guys get this one. This goes way back. No. Billie Holiday, this gentleman over here got it. Right here. Okay, I've got one more. All right. This one is a little different. Tell me who this is. Okay. Okay, so who got the most?
Well, it was a tie between him and the lady back there.
I think the lady's back there.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll do one tiebreaker. And we just have them play this particular one, okay? All right. There's a reason for all this, so. All right, let's try this one. This is a little different than Motown, but let's see who gets this.
Neither one of them got it. You gotta do another one.
I know, I gotta do another one. Okay. Oh, okay, yeah, this one I need to play because.
He's a tiebreaker.
Okay, just our leaders here, okay? Starting in a second.
No one else got it, except the ladies in the back.
here.
And the gentleman that's gonna raise his hand.
All right, here we go. One more tiebreaker. Sonny and Cher.
Oh, we have a winner.
All right.
Do you want to present it?
No, go ahead and do it. All right.
And what's your name?
Robert.
Robert.
All right, congratulations, Robert. That's awesome.
There you go.
Thanks much.
Okay. Now, why did I take time to play a bunch of Motown songs for you guys? Why did I take that time? Here's the question. What did all of those artists have in common?
They're dead.
They're dead. Okay. But more importantly, they all passed away without a will. Okay. One that I skipped, Bob Marley passed away in 1981. His probate case is still in court today. Martin Luther King was shot in 1968. His children are in probate court still fighting over who gets his Bible. George Michael passed away, and this goes to another point that we're gonna come to later on about keeping your information updated. Okay, George Michael passed away a few years ago, but he did have a will, but he didn't update it. Hadn't updated it in 20 years. So when he passed away, everything went to his boyfriend, 3 boyfriends back. Okay, so there are very important reasons why we need a will, we need to avoid probate, and why we need to keep our documents updated. Okay, these are all people. Prince, there are 36 people that have come forward claiming to be Prince's son. He died without a will. It's still probate court. That was 6 years ago. Aretha Franklin had 3 wills, which they couldn't find for a while, but they finally found one stuffed in the cushions of her couch. Okay? People don't take these things as serious as they should. And as I've been involved in the business for a number of years, it's really interesting to me. And you try to analyze, these are very famous people, these are very wealthy people. Why didn't they take the time? I mean, Aretha's manager was on her for 20 years to do something. She finally did a will, which she handwritten. It's amazing that the judge agreed to it. But why don't they? Because we, as people, really, we are so afraid of death. We're so afraid of embracing it, of understanding that we are going to pass away. I reach out, part of my job with the firm is to get out and speak to people about this. And there in Chicago, there are 98 different 55 and up senior buildings. And I've reached out to many of them wanting to come and speak to seniors about it. Every time they answer me, they say, well, you know, Jay, we'd really like to do that. But our people tell us we don't want to talk about anything about death. Now, this is their life. This is their legacy. I speak to firefighter unions, okay, on a pretty regular basis. I was in, I'll just name it, Lombard. I was in Lombard, got my big Dutch butt up at 6 o'clock in the morning to speak to 60 guys. Out of 60 guys, 1 guy had a will. Now, these are guys that get out every day. They could die, they could fall through the roof every day, and none of them have a will. So his wife is going to see him leave in the morning, never come home, and then he's going to put that whole probate stuff on her as well. And that's typical in that industry. Same situation in LaGrange. I talked to 27 guys there. 2 guys had a will. You guys don't understand what's on. So let me ask this. Has anybody gone through the probate process with their family or anything like that?
Probate's simple, so it was the easiest that it could have been.
Okay. But what you have to understand is what chaos it brings to families. Okay. I'm gonna tell you some stories that are really related just to our firm, things that have actually happened in our firm. I think I'll start off this one. This is my favorite one. We had a couple come to us last year, in their 80s, lived in a little tiny house over in Villa Park, 20-year-old car, Husband had worked for Ma Bell. I'm sure a lot of us remember Ma Bell. Got a really nice pension, $600,000 when he retired. We don't know, we're not sure exactly how, but he invested that money and he was now worth $35 million. No relatives on his side. On the wife's side, they had a niece and nephew that would come and help them and take care of them in their home. So now they come to us and they go, well, we're getting a little, the husband's getting a little fuzzy. We need to put some stuff together. So we start working with them. 2 days in, the wife passed away. So now we got a gentleman that's having some cognitive issues worth $35 million. What do we do with that? Okay. It's too late to create a will because somebody's going to challenge that, right? So we start figuring out how we're going to figure this, how we're going to do this. 2 weeks later, he passed away. It's an absolute true story, about a year ago. So now what do you think happens? You've got an estate worth $35 million, no relatives on his side. The niece and nephew are not involved because the wife had passed before him. So there's no connection. Anybody want to guess?
The state of Illinois.
In most cases, that would be the case. Here's what I want to tell you about the probate. It's the Wild West of courts, okay? Judges can do whatever they want to do about stuff. Things that you think, oh, that should go to my sister or whatever, very oftentimes it doesn't, because he decides he wants to do something else. This is what this judge did. He had one of those 23andMe DNA tests done on the gentleman's DNA, and he found that he had 7 cousins in Poland and in Germany, and the money went to them. He never met him, never knew who he was, never heard of him.
That's my kind of cousin.
Yeah, pretty amazing stuff. We had a situation where we had a mother had 2 daughters, and she had a lot of money. She did not want any of it to go to one of the daughters. She had been despicable to her, treated her terribly. So she came to us, we started the process, but she never came back. We started the process, all she had to do was come back and sign it. In the process, she passed away. So there's no will. And she was a very wealthy woman. The money was supposed to be split between the 2 daughters, but we have to go through the whole probate process, okay? 2 months after that, the good daughter passed away. So now every dime that the mother had went to her daughter that she never wanted to have anything of. These are real life things that really happen in our house. We had a family, husband, wife, 8-year-old daughter. The house is just in the husband's name. He doesn't have a will, he passes away. Now, if you know anything about how things go, that his 2 heirs would be his wife and his daughter, okay? Well, here's the problem with that. The house is now going to be in both of their names, right? Because they're both equal owners of the house. Well, she's 8 years old. She needs a guardian. So the mom's the guardian. So now every year, the mother has to go to probate court to prove to the judge that she's taking care of her own daughter. So that because she's the guardian of. So it's complex, it's ridiculous things, but this is how the laws work, okay? All right, so let's talk about what is probate, okay? In the state of Illinois, the law is that if your estate is worth over $100,000 or you own any real estate, your estate goes to probate court. Basically, it's the idea of how the state is going to help, to help themselves to the taxes on that, but how they're going to help distribute your estate, okay? Now, that process, as you realtors who've dealt with this before, everything has to go through the judge. So first you have to petition the court to be the executor of the will, okay? Very often we have family members, because mom didn't do anything, who wants to be the executor of the will. That's the first battle, which can take a lot of time, okay? So now it's done. Now that person is responsible for selling the house, taking care of the jewelry, selling everything off, and making sure that everything gets distributed evenly and properly to the point where the judge is going to okay it. That process now, and also part of that, we have to put an ad in the paper for 6 months so that creditors have the opportunity to see that this person has passed away, and if they have any kind of claim, they can come to probate court and claim that they owe them X amount of dollars, okay? So that's a minimum of 6 months we have to do that, which is part of why everything takes so long. And that's the most simplest case. When we get into complex things, it gets really, really, really messy. Let me tell you another quick story. Had a guy come to me, very, very nice guy, he lived in Elgin, truck driver, just the nicest, down-to-earth, great guy. But his mom really messed it over for him. She had 6 children, 3 boys, the oldest, 3 daughters, and she had a will and she had a trust. But what she did was she said, I leave it to my eldest son to decide how everything should be distributed among the children. Please don't ever do that. So now he's, blenders are going out the front door, the lawnmowers are going here. But what he didn't realize is mom had a ton of really, really nice, expensive jewelry. Okay? Now what do you do with that? Now his wife didn't want anything to do with it. Now he's got three of the sisters. So I thought he came up with a pretty good idea. He got a bunch of nondescript jewelry boxes, put each piece in one, laid them all out on the table, invited his sisters over, and for 2.5 hours they did a round robin pick of how it goes. Just you pick blindly and that's what you get. I think that's pretty fair. Everything seemed okay. Everybody left. 2 weeks later, the youngest sister didn't like what she got. So she hires an attorney. She doesn't just pick up the phone and call her sister and go, I want to trade the ruby for mom's earrings or something. She hires an attorney, and the attorney sues the estate, saying that he's not doing a very good job of running the estate. And we are still in court on that. This is 8 months down the road. Something very simple like that. You just don't know. Don't ever leave it open to, if you have any kind of a plan, be really sure. Give you another go ahead, yes sir.
Just a quick question, I don't want to steal your thunder, but early on you said, if a person owns real estate or his holdings valued over $100,000.
Yes.
You're talking about if it is owned personally.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Not in the trust, right?
Right.
That's what my question was.
Yeah, not in a trust, right. If you have a trust, you're very likely already going to have, if you've had the forethought to have a trust done, you probably have a will done already as well. That usually goes hand in hand. But that's a great point. But here's the thing, that piece of property, it could be a little thing you're going to put a shed on. It's any kind of property, any kind of real estate, you're going to go to probate court. Okay? That's just state of Illinois law.
If it's owned personally.
Yes. Now, why do we want to avoid this? First of all, in the state of Illinois, you cannot go to probate court without an attorney. That's just the law. You can't represent yourself. You can't do it pro se. You have to hire an attorney. Minimum, it's going to cost you on the easiest case going, if it's one daughter and no confrontation or anything, $6,000. In most cases, if there's any contention, we have some that have been going on 5 years, we're now into $35,000. When they could have done a will and a living will and powers of attorney for $1,800. This is why it's really important, guys. This is really, it's a nightmare when you get into these places, okay? So let's talk about what are the ways we're gonna avoid it, okay? And really the documents that are really necessary here. So here's what I'd like to do. Mark, do you have a will? Okay. Did you go to an attorney? Did you go on lawpay.com for $99?
I just put it on the back of the napkin.
That's what I figured. That's what I figured.
That works.
That's what I figured. Okay, because that's what I would do. I looked it up, and when it used to be $69, now it's up to $99. You want to go to somebody who knows what they're doing. Now, let's talk about this. Back in the day, the local gas station had a mechanic, and most of us could take our car there, they could work on it, right? Well, now we can't do that. If you drive a Mitsubishi, you're gonna go to the Mitsubishi dealer, you're gonna go to the Mercedes, you're gonna go to the dealer, right? Because they know how to work on those cars. And there is a place and there's a time for general practitioner lawyers. There absolutely is. They're great for divorce, they're great for all kinds of things. When you're talking about your money and your legacy and those kinds of things, please, whether you use us or not, go to somebody who knows the laws and knows what's in, because we end up getting cases where it was written by somebody that really didn't know what they were doing. Okay, so take the time and make the effort to do it that way. Okay. The first thing we're going to talk about, and the reason I ask you about what you do is because people they get a will, but then there are other documents that I'll give you an example. Okay. If your wife, Mark, if your wife becomes ill and is incapacitated, should you be able to look at her medical records in order to help make decisions about her health care?
Yeah, you should.
You should. But if you don't have a little document called a HIPAA acknowledgement, which is part of a living will, you can't look at her medical records. So that's the first thing. There are many people, and I would agree with this, a living will is just as important, if not more important, than the will. So the living will is going to tell us, what do I want done and how do I want things done? Whether, do I want to be resuscitated? Do I want to be intubated? What level of care do I want it to go with here? And how do I want that done? Okay? It's very important because when the time comes, you want things done the way you want them done. So that's one document, and the HIPAA acknowledgement is part of that as well. Okay? And we have the will. There are very strict protocols on how they're done, and no matter what Aretha Franklin says, you have to have it drawn up by an attorney with proper witnesses and all those kinds of things. Okay? At least in the state of Illinois, you do. Okay? So that's gonna be our second document. Is everybody familiar with POA's, power of attorney? Okay. Here's a couple things about powers of attorney. So there's two powers of attorney that we want to talk about. One is power of attorney medical, and the other one is power of attorney financial. So power of attorney medical is when you give somebody the say-so about your medical care. So if we have the living will, that person should know what your wishes are, how far, and then their job is to make sure it's carried out that way, okay? Or if there are questions that are not part of that, they make those decisions for you if you're not incapacitated. Before I go on to the financial, here's the thing that people are when we get with dealing with seniors, they're very afraid to do a POA because they go, well, if I sign it over to my daughter, what if she wants to do something and I don't agree? She wants to put me in this facility over here. But I don't agree. Okay, here's the big thing that you can kind of help seniors get through it. As long as they are still of sound mind, they will always overrun whatever the person that has the POA. Okay? So they're very afraid that, oh, she's gonna do this, that, or whatever. You can always, if you're the person who gave them the power, you can always take it back and do what you want to do. Okay? It's kind of a tricky thing. Now, we have power of attorney financial. Okay? You guys ever dealt with that? Yeah? Okay. Here's the way that works. Somebody's got a side gig going, right? They're doing pretty good. Now they're incapacitated. Should their spouse be able to help run that business, access the different bank accounts and be able to run the business day to day? With the power of attorney financial, they're able to do that. Okay? Questions about any of those?
If you don't have the financial power of attorney, but you are a joint owner of all the accounts,
Yes.
does that help?
It does help. Here's one more thing I want to kind of when you open up a bank account, or when you open a 401k, or if you open any kind of financial account, always have it directed to something. It bothers me that banks don't insist on people doing this, because when you pass away and it's undirected, your family can't access that until, especially if it's over $100,000, they can't access that money until we go through the probate process. If it's directed, they have access. It doesn't mean they're on the account, okay? It just means in the case I pass away, this person should have access to those funds. Yeah.
I just went through that with my relatives, so they're doing your will, they're in a different state, and we go there to go to the bank. But what I noticed was when we read the will, it didn't have it directed. So how do you tell them, they want the name, the bank wants the name, they don't wanna say that it's part of the trust or part of the will.
Right.
How do you get them to change that?
How do you get the bank to change that?
Yeah, because they want a name, right? And I'm saying it should be directed to the trust. Whoever the executor is of the trust.
So is the person still alive?
They're still alive.
Yeah, that person would need to go to the bank and say, I want this directed to the trust or directed to that person. But that's really a disservice. It's really something that institutions really should do, because it would eliminate a great deal of issues that we have. Another document, when you have property, you real estate folks, have you ever dealt with a TODI? Do we know what that is?
What is it?
A TODI, it's TODI. It's a very simple document, and it's a transference upon death instrument, okay? So even if we didn't do a will, if we have that document, it basically says, if everything's paid for and they have the deed, I transfer the deed to this person, okay? It can eliminate a lot of problems, and it can actually take your estate from being in probate to not being in probate, because that's already decided. The biggest bulk of your estate is already decided. Questions about that one? Yeah, Mark.
Does it totally work for an individual, or can it work for several family members?
Most of the ones I've seen is that it basically it's transferred to one person. Okay, so it's like a husband for the wife, or mom to her daughter, or those kinds of things. Generally, otherwise you're gonna have to go to probate, we're gonna have to sell the house, split things, and then get a final accounting, and all the things that go with that. Okay? Yes?
Can they say that transfer on death goes to a trust, and they wanna keep it to a trust because the family members and law enforcement and police officers always get sued, that way you stay there?
You'd have to talk to the attorneys about that. I can't give legal advice. But I can see where that could be a little tricky. When you get into trust, and we'll talk about trust here in a minute. You had a question, ma'am?
Oh, yeah. I have a friend who has 3 kids, he's divorced, and he's doing a totally now. Can he actually leave it to, set up all 3 of his kids to get equal share?
That
He kind of thinks that's what he can do.
Yeah, it gets a little bit complex. In that case, you might want to consider forming a trust and then having it transferred into the trust, and then So let's talk about that real quick. A trust is essentially like a box, and you're gonna put stuff in there, whether it's an account, it's your home, so what we're looking for with a trust is we're looking, what do we want done in perpetuity after we pass away? So if we have a son or a daughter that's got issues, we wanna make sure they're taken care of. We create a trust so that those finances are there in perpetuity to continue down the way. So that's why we're opening trusts, and there are revocable trusts and irrevocable trusts, meaning it's gonna last, it's forever, nothing can change. Some trusts are there until it's exhausted. I'll tell you a really interesting thing. The reason I played Michael Jackson, he had a will and a trust, but he never put the money in the trust. So when he dies, they go to the trust, there's nothing in it. So they spent 2 years just trying to figure out where his money was, and then that it could eventually go into the trust. So everybody kind of had to sit and wait for a couple of years, and Mrs. Jackson, like, he just never funded it. You really need to do that the day you set the trust up. With us, we actually have a deal with a couple of different banks that will actually come to our law office and set everything up there. But it was kind of funny. It's like, here's this multi-million-dollar guy, and there's nothing in the trust. Questions about anything so far?
So you're not an attorney?
No, ma'am, I'm not.
Okay, I thought you, I thought you were.
No, all I can give you are what the laws are. I can't give you advice, but I can tell you what we're dealing with. Okay. Real estate agents. Can you tell me what kind of problems you've had with dealing with a probate case?
Siblings not agreeing on anything.
Just a lot of disagreement, a lot of time wasted because they hadn't done the proper paperwork up front. That's the biggest problem.
Well, I wrote up an offer for somebody, and he said, before I sign it, I just want to call the probate attorney. Just want to make sure I'm going to be getting my money within the next few weeks. And really, he's been avoiding me ever since. I think he's gotten bad news from the probate attorney.
Yes.
That a quitclaim deed was not documented, and then ended up having, well, it's pending. So obviously the siblings are gonna now probably try to take it to probate.
Right.
But there's, it's notarized, but it just wasn't recorded.
Right.
So I don't know how that's.
Something that simple, and it's gonna mess up that whole, just recording. You had a question?
Or is it all of a sudden somebody not being a cell nine? So mom didn't have anything, now they have to hire somebody for guardianship.
Yeah, and you folks know, especially folks with Elderwerks, once that slide starts, it is overnight. It just so quickly those kinds of things happen. We had a really interesting case where it was about last year, and I talked to this family from Wisconsin. They had Uncle Bert. Uncle Bert owned 5 beautiful graystones in Wrigleyville, right down the road in the street. He'd done very well in life, never married, and so every time the family from Wisconsin would come down and go to the Cubs game and stay at his house, he would always tell them, "I just want you guys to know I did really well in life, and I got you really covered. You're going to be very surprised and very happy with my will." Again, 5 gravestones, if you can imagine what those are worth. So somewhere along the line, he got involved with a service group, like I don't know what the name, like a Kiwanis, Knights of Columbus, that kind of group, locally in that area. In less than a year, these folks, he was 91, they took everything that this man had, including ownership of those gravestones, even the one he lived in. Then he passed away, and these people went to the judge and said, and they went to the funeral in Wisconsin. The guy was buried in Wisconsin. Those folks went to the funeral. They came back, they go in front of the judge, and they said, we couldn't find any family members. And so we're talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars. The family calls us and they're like, what can we do? And they were right, they had 1 month left, and it would have been, and I can tell you that we got every bit of that back from those people, and they're being prosecuted by the Cook County. But there are people out there taking advantage of seniors, and this, you know, is the nicest family, Okay, any other questions?
So your firm does have attorneys in it, right?
Yes, so we do all the planning work that you want to do, but then also guardianships for seniors, elder law, where they're being abused, all those kinds of things. So yeah, we've been in business about 9 years. We also have a sister firm if anybody deals with immigration, the same owner. So then that's been around. So you guys can imagine our calls there are up about 500% since January. But yeah, we're in Oak Brook. If anybody has any questions, I think we passed out my stuff. Okay, so my card is on the back of there. I want to tell you, we offer a free 1 hour conversation with you. No charge. We can do it in person. You can come to our office. We do it by Zoom, or we can do it with phone call. We can assess whatever's going on with you and tell you whether we can help you out or what's the best way to do that. I guess I don't want to leave out trust, but that's a little more complex. And those are the things when you get into really high-end kind of things. And there's a cap there about $4.5 million where taxes are. That's another advantage of putting things in a trust for tax purposes. The other thing is when you go through probate, everything is public. So when we put that ad in the paper, in some obscure paper, everything you own listed in there, the value of your home, the value of your car, all this stuff is public. If you have a will and all that stuff goes on, or if you have a trust, it's all private. We had a gentleman who was a very wealthy writer, and he called me and he wanted he was going to buy a house, but he wanted to create a trust first because they wanted people to know where he lived. Okay, so we did. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Just 2 comments. I was a family caregiver for 12 years. I right away started going to any education opportunity I could get. I was feeling very smug because at this point, when I heard another attorney speaking about documents, I thought, well, I've got that all taken care of with my mom. And somebody, as we were out just socializing, said, and do you have them set up for yourself? Which I didn't. So it was a great wake-up call.
Very similar. I went to Belmont Village out in where the Carroll Street. They put on this wonderful thing very similar to this, where it was how to have the tough conversation with mom. And there was an attorney there, and they were talking about all this stuff, and people were standing up complaining, I can't believe my mom didn't put all this in order and this and whatever. And I stood up and I went, okay, let me just ask you, show of hands, how many of you folks have a will? And there was like 2 out of 75 people there. So we don't think about it, but you know, we're chastising mom about those kinds of things. And I want to say another thing. In the last 6 months to a year, I spent a lot of time in the senior arena. I have a lot of people that I actually have my own group of people that are 95 different people that are in different parts of senior care. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing that they do, and everybody always has a great heart, and I love that. But the more you can educate yourself so that you can be a better service to the senior, that's really what's important. So what I do with my group is we bring a speaker in once a month. We do it on Zoom, and it's a chance. We've had how to be more effective on LinkedIn, how to we had a bank president come in and talk about ways that seniors are getting ripped off nowadays. Okay, so we want to educate the caregivers so that they can be a better service to, and that's why I go out very often and speak to. Here's the other thing, and this is kind of off topic, but I think it's really important. I don't think families do enough early on with seniors to show them what their options are. So what happens is mom falls and breaks a hip, it's determined she can't live at home anymore, and now they want to figure out where we're going to put her, okay? That's where the seniors go, wait a minute, this is still my life, right? I have a friend who, Carrie Navins, who does Carried Away with Carrie in Willowbrook, and she takes seniors on tours all the time. She's got 160 of them that come in almost every day, they go different places. But part of her agenda, she'll take them to one senior center, and then they go see the Lipizzan horses, and then she shows them another one. And I think in the last year, she's shown them 75 different senior care facilities. So when that time comes, mom should know, I want to go over there because I visited there, I like the food. And if we just give our seniors the dignity to be able to make their own decisions, I think it will go a lot better.
Who does this, Carrie?
It's Carried Away with Carrie. She's out of Willowbrook.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Carried Away with Carrie.
C-A-R-Y?
Yes. Actually, it's Carried Away with Carrie, but the Carrie starts with a K. Carried Away with Carrie, but the Carrie at the end starts with a K. I didn't know I was going to do a commercial for her today, but she just does a great service and she just started it up on her own, but she takes them to Europe, the ones that are very mobile. They just got back from Yugoslavia.
So is she like a travel agent?
No, well, she works with travel agencies, but but again, mostly she does day trips. They'll go to the Arboretum, or they'll go to the botanical gardens and those kinds of things. And that's really, and we talk about, earlier, Chris was talking about people being lonely. That's such a way to help them to get out and be with other seniors. And they're I've spoken in front of them about 2 or 3 times. They're very funny because they're just like high school kids. You know, when I ask who's the cheap one here, they always go, okay, yeah, it's Bertha over here. Yeah, and so we mess with her. But it's important to me for seniors to have their dignity. And I think giving them say in what happens to them is a very important thing. My grandmother lived to be 96, and she was my best friend. And so a lot that we do is influenced by that kind of stuff. Okay? Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jay, very much. I've been in the senior arena for 22 years, and I worked in the financial side with mortgages and seniors and reverse mortgages. I can't instill enough that people need to plan ahead, you know, with their finances. I know it's very difficult. Some people don't want to face death, but it is something that is important, that makes life a lot easier. I come from a family of 4 boys, and my dad, as we would always get in trouble, the boys would always get in trouble. My dad says, I'm writing you out of the will. All right, I don't know how many times I was written out of the will, or this week it's you, or you know, whatever. After I had my first child, I asked my dad jokingly, hey, you ever put me back in a will? He goes, what will? He's never had one. So first thing I do is get on the phone. He says, we're all written out of the will because there isn't one. So my brothers got on my dad. He finally got a will, and things went well. And when he passed away, his paperwork and all things were taken care of. But he didn't plan everything. And so when we took care of my mom and everything with that, it was so easy. It's a stressful time when someone passes, and this is the key thing. It is very difficult when someone passes away. All the upheaval, all the emotions, all the things that go along with just, you know, life in general. But if you have the funeral things, the little cards we even had for my mom, the flowers, we had everything already picked out. And so my mom had one wish when she passed away. She wanted to get us a limo. For us 4 boys, not our wives, for the 4 boys to get together in a limo and have a good time, because she knew we would, you know, have a good time. But the key thing is just the planning is the key thing, and it makes life so much easier, because then you could really mourn, you can take care of all the little things that go on with life. So really important. Well, I want to thank again Jay for that. We are going to break for lunch. Right now it is 11:25 roughly. So what we'd like to do, if we can get back somewhat on schedule a little bit and everybody back here by 12:15, if not, we'll hold back a little bit. But if everybody could go out, if they want to have something to eat, we have some treats, we have some bananas, we have some fruit, water, things. If you want that, that's fine, but we'll try to get back here at 12:15, if that's okay. All right, thank you very much. See you soon.
I like the limo thing and just the boys.
Yeah, well, my mom was
two.
partial. She was very partial.
They're good berries.
My mom was a stitch.
She had to be, she had 4 boys.
Yeah.